Hi, I'm Michelle Burnler from the Western Australian Association for Mental Health. As part of the NDIS Sector Readiness project, today we'll be talking about an introduction to positive behaviour support, or PBS. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land of which this is being filmed, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. I pay my respects to elders past, present, and acknowledge that this is Aboriginal land that was never ceded. I also extend those respects to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people watching today. I would also like to acknowledge the courage and contribution of people with lived experience, whether that is lived experience of mental distress or of caring for someone with mental distress. Those with mental distress have shaped the way for us, and we really do stand on the shoulders of giants. What underpins positive behaviour support, or PBS? The first and most important part is that it is a person-centred practice. That means we put the person and their needs and wants at the centre of all that we do. The second is that we use supported decision-making. This means the person's right to make a choice and an informed choice is respected, and their dignity of risk is respected. They are given support to make decisions that are in their best interest. It is an evidence-based practice, meaning that there is a significant amount of evidence supporting the use of positive behaviour support to reduce challenging behaviour. We use trauma-informed principles. This means that we acknowledge the significance of trauma in people's life and the role that trauma plays, and we also do our best to prevent future harm. And finally, it is embedded in human rights practice. That means we respect the legislation and the right of every person, regardless of whether or not they have a disability. This video by WA Individualised Services outlines how positive behaviour support works. It is called My Good Life.
When I think about my life, I imagine it as a big cup ready to hold refreshing water. There are 3 ice cubes in it, which represent who I am, the people in my life, and what I've got to say. Other things that top up my cup are new things I learn along the way, interesting experiences, warm interactions, opportunities for my gifts to be shared, and taking care of myself to keep healthy and safe. My cup is full. It feels good, like a cold drink of water on a hot day. But it takes energy and focus to fill up our cup and keep it full. The reality of life means that we don't always have the support we need, and the challenges of life can drain our cup. When that happens, we can't thrive. We may become tired, sick, withdrawn, distressed, and upset. Good things I want in life might fall away. To help fill my cup, I start with the foundations. Who am I? What's important to me? Are the people who matter most to me part of my life? What else needs to be topped up in my cup? Am I having opportunities to learn new things? Am I enjoying fun and interesting experiences? Am I making a contribution to my community, for example, through work? Am I healthy? Am I connected to my culture? Do I have real friendships? When our cups are full, we have love, purpose, support, freedom, and resources. For some, communication can be hard, and people don't always understand what is needed. When I feel I'm not heard or getting what I need, my cup gets emptied. My feelings of sadness, anger, or frustration might show up to others through the way I act. If I act in ways that are not safe for me or the people around me, it may be called challenging behaviour or a behaviour of concern. People sometimes react to me in ways that don't address why I'm expressing myself this way. They may not know how important it is for me to have the positive relationships and experiences which fill my cup. Sometimes their reactions may drain my cup even more. Highly individualised support is a way to discover what a cup-full, good life looks like for me, what is and isn't working for me, how I'm communicating what I need, and what changes would make my life better. People who provide this highly individualised support involve me, people who care about me, and who I want involved. They gather and share information to deeply understand me. They find out what is behind my actions and what needs of mine are not being met. This is known as a Positive Behaviour Support Plan, or PBS plan for short. Supporters pay close attention to all the ways I am communicating my preferences, my likes and dislikes. This may be through my gestures, sounds, movements and facial expressions, as well as what I might say with words. They check whether I have any health problems that are impacting me. What people know about me goes into my Positive Behaviour Support Plan. A PBS plan will be different for each person. It's like a menu of the people, places and things which fill my cup. It may talk about ways to support me when I'm struggling or in distress and offer some better alternatives. The plan may include ways for me to feel better in situations that are difficult for me and to work out what support I need. It may include helping me to develop new skills or better ways to communicate, or to help my supporters understand my communication. It may include ideas that connect me to opportunities which fill my cup rather than draining it. Things like relationships, love, belonging and making contributions. A PBS plan gives guidance for what to do if things become unsafe for me or the people around me. Sometimes, this means I might be stopped or restrained in a way that limits my right to freedom of movement or freedom of choice. This is called a restrictive practice. I should be supported with information and to express my preferences regarding restrictive practices. I might be restricted in my home to keep me and others safe. A deeper exploration of the people and places where I thrive might be needed. My supporters and I might find out that sharing my home with different people or moving into my own home means these restrictions may not be needed. If we think that a restrictive practice will help me to live my life the way I want and need, then I might think it's okay. For example, taking medication that helps manage my emotions so I can do the things I love and make my best contribution. My plan should be regularly reviewed to make sure things are changing positively for me and the use of restrictive practices is reducing or has stopped altogether. If this isn't happening, everyone will try and find out why. Highly individualised support, when embedded with values of human rights, person-centred support and respect, including respect for my culture, is an ethical way to fill my cup. It supports my dignity rather than punishing me for my behaviour and keeping my cup empty. Using what we know to offer genuine positive behaviour support is a better way for me, my family and supporters to understand me. It can help reduce and eliminate any restrictive practices. It also helps to fill my cup with people and opportunities to live my best life.
So what does a positive behaviour support practitioner do? Firstly, they identify the goals, strengths and needs of the person. They work with key stakeholders. This may include family, friends, carers, support workers. They conduct a functional behavioural assessment to understand the reason behind the behaviour. They develop a PBS or Positive Behaviour Support Plan. This outlines restrictive practices that may be used and recommended actions for support workers and carers to take. They aim to reduce or eliminate restrictive practices. They support the person in skill building. They support staff who support the person to develop their own skills so that the person is better able to handle themselves in situations. And finally, they make environmental changes. This is because some behaviours occur because the environment is overstimulating or understimulating. This is the PBS plan timeline. It outlines what happens from the start or the initiation of a PBS contract through to the implementation of the behaviour support plan. What does a functional behavioural assessment include? Firstly, we look at the person's strengths and needs. What do they need to do well and how can they draw on those strengths? It looks at the person's likes and dislikes, as these may impact behaviour. There is usually a list of collaborators, and this may include family, friends, support workers and other medical professionals. And it also looks at where and when behaviours are concerning and what those behaviours are. We also record the frequency of behaviours and a baseline measure information. In other words, what does the person look like when they are well and not experiencing challenging behaviour? Finally, there is the function of the behaviour hypothesis, where the PBS practitioner will hypothesise the reason the behaviour takes place. This is an example of what a functional behavioural assessment may look like. What might a PBS practitioner need from you, the support worker? Firstly, they might need help identifying key stakeholders in the client's life. The client may have difficulty identifying all of these stakeholders without support. They may need you to identify any key data that might provide insight into the situation. They will need your support to involve the client and their support network in meetings. We really need the client to have a stake in the situation to have the best outcome in terms of challenging behaviour. They may need your assistance in identifying restrictive practices and behaviours of concern. They will want your collaboration to develop strategies because you may know what works best for the person. Finally, they will want to discuss ways of monitoring behaviour with you, as a PBS practitioner will want to record when behaviour occurs in the future and if restrictive practices are used. How can we expect people to change if we don't give them the chance to? Marissa Meyer. Your other support options include internal policies and procedures. We recommend external supervision. There is the PBS Community of Practice in WA on the second Thursday of the month, and we recommend you contact Anne Hood at Rise Network to take part in these. Finally, the NDIS Quality and Safeguarding Commission has many resources on positive behaviour support. More resources and frequently asked questions can be found on the Care Hub under the WAAMH NDIS Sector Legacy Toolbox. It can be found at this QR code. Thank you for joining us for this webinar.